Yeah, so I was taking my dogs out at like 9 to 10:30 at night. And this was Wednesday, April 5th, and taking my dogs out, and I noticed out of the corner of my eye that there was some movement going on. And turned my head over to where movement was, and I see this red eye looking thing at the top of the trees. And I'm thinking, this has to be some sort of bear or something that I haven't thought of before. And as I'm thinking that, it takes like two or three steps towards me and moves like 50 meters within that. And I see this big creature. It is, its coat is like a dark, muddy brown with like matted and knotted hair. And it had, from what I could tell, it had like this mix of chimpanzee and teeth, human teeth. It had this big, deep red, almost maroon colored eyes. And it had what looks like wounds or blood on it, and just random places all over it. And I'm looking at it, it's looking at me, and it starts to circle around me to my right. And at this time, my dogs are over there down by the lake, probably 100 yards or something like that, 100 foot. And they are freaking out because they're starting to smell something, and I'm starting to smell something. And it's like this mix of death and rot and just utter disgustingness smell. And, you know, at this point, I'm kind of freaking out. And once it gets kind of around where the shed is, I lose sight of it. My dogs are starting to run up. And so I have this remote for them for their collars. It has like a beeper and vibrate, and then a vibrate. I'm pressing all the dogs, vibrate, 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 getting back inside. And they go over to the house, and I let them back in, and I grab the shotgun that's closest to where the door is, and I grabbed it just thinking that if something were to happen, I would be able to protect myself, because we got wild hogs, coyotes, bobcats, stuff like that. And as I'm going back in, or back outside, I hear these loud whoops, like a monkey, almost like a whoop, whoop, kind of like that, but deeper. And I hear almost three distinctive footsteps, and then nothing. And, you know, I go back inside and just kind of collect my thoughts and everything, and I'm starting to think, this might have been a Bigfoot. And then post on Reddit, story, reach out to you about the story. And actually a few days earlier, about Monday or Tuesday night, taking my dogs out again, and the same area where I had seen the first Bigfoot, I see two pairs of eyes. One is that same height where I seen that one Bigfoot, and then another one closer to the ground, almost like crouching or on all fours or something like that. And same color of eyes. The one was the same color, like a deep red maroon, almost like a burning coal look. And the other one was a more amber orangish look. And I was like, okay, could either be just, you know, very, very curious and looking what's around, or it could be You know, it's in a more calmer state of mind, and we're kind of both in a more calmer state of mind, and just might be thinking, you know, we're both kind of more calmed down. What's he gonna do now? Is he gonna do the same thing, or is he gonna be like, place is safe, I'm just gonna chill out now? Yeah. So I don't really think that it was here to mean me or my dogs any harm. If I had to guess, because of it was covered in blood almost, it was either one, just gotten out of a hunt and was extremely exhausted and on alert, or two, it had just gotten out of a fight with something, whether it be another Bigfoot for territory or mating or whatever, and it's on alert and very almost not really aggressive, but kind of territorial of itself, and just on alert and didn't really want anything to mess with it. So it just kind of went about its way to a safe spot and heal. And then, you know, 2 days, or it was either, like I said, Monday or Tuesday, and seen those two pairs of eyes. So it could have just been coming back and making sure it's not gonna be hurt or anything. So
yeah. So it seemed like this creature was moving in the wood line between the cattle field and your property.
Yeah.
It was either going to the pond or exiting the pond,
Yeah.
and it was probably looking for food.
yeah,
Yeah, that is scary that this creature had red spots on it, like it was wounded. Maybe it got in a fight, like you said, or maybe it killed a deer or some cattle.
and I say it definitely looked like blood, because it was like a wet, shiny look into it. So it had like a red brown tint to it, and it definitely looked fresh, whether it was wound, whether it was from a kill, and could have been from a cattle or a cow that had been killed, or it could have been a deer.
You think someone maybe hit it with a car or like a big truck, or some farmer shot it? Do you ever hear gunshots out here?
I definitely hear gunshots out here, whether it be shotguns, rifles, or people messing around with tannerite. But with how big these things are and how muscular and whatnot, you wouldn't think like a shotgun would do anything other than take it off. But of course, then again, depending on what caliber they used, it just depends. For it being hit with a car, I haven't really heard of anyone getting in a wreck or hitting something around here, but I haven't really been paying attention too awful much. You know, I've been scrolling on Henry County and whatnot, Facebook, seeing if anyone has talked about being in a wreck over here, but
yeah, I think most likely it either killed something or it got in a fight with another one. It wasn't limping or anything, right?
No, it was more like whenever it was walking, I had forgotten to mention that it would do these deep guttural grunts, almost like a mix of a ticked off bull and a deep guttural human grunt, like every time it took a step, walking in a circle to my right. And that could be it being territorial and kind of warning me to back off, or it might have been hurt, because, you know, whenever animals get hurt, they are territorial, but they also, whenever they walk, they're kind of expressing their pain and grunting or growling. It is, I couldn't tell you. I wish I knew, but.
Yeah. At what point did the dogs sense this Sasquatch creature?
Oh, it was probably whenever it went around from that big, branchless and leafless tree, walked over about 50 foot towards me, and then probably when it got probably a bit diagonal to me is whenever I started to pick up the smell, and whenever I think the dogs started to pick up the smell and started freaking out.
Yeah. So you walked outside around 9 p.m. at night, Wednesday, and this is a recent report.
Yeah.
You were trying to retrieve the dogs, and you had a light, correct?
Yep.
And you shined it into that field behind you, and that's when you saw the red eyes.
Yeah.
Were they self-illuminated, or did they only light up whenever you hit them with the light?
You know, I wouldn't be able to tell you, because whenever I had seen those eyes and it walked towards me and I seen that creature, I just was pumped up with so much adrenaline, and my senses were just hyper focused on that. And I was scared that if I shined my light somewhere else and went back on it, I wouldn't be able to see it again.
Right.
It looked like they had been self-illuminating, but I couldn't tell you for 100%.
How big around were they, and how far apart?
Probably they really just looked like if you took your fist and set it up against, probably around the same area of that.
Okay.
And they were probably, I don't know, probably 6-7 inches apart.
Okay. So about the size of a baseball or something,
Yeah.
maybe a little bigger.
Yeah.
Okay. So those are pretty big eyes, and this is an unusual situation. How did you feel in that moment when you realized something was off?
I was at the moment in that I was scared and terrified, because I didn't know what I was seeing at the time, and I didn't know if it was here to harm me or harm my dogs. And whenever I lost sight of it around that shed, I took that opportunity to go back inside and get my dogs in and grab something I could protect myself with. And I didn't mean it any harm. I was just, if it were to turn into a life or death situation and it possessed a threat to me, I wanted to be able to protect myself. Because if I have to choose between letting something else live that is about to kill me or choose my life, I'm gonna choose my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't blame you. It's good to have it there in case you need it.
Exactly.
And maybe if it sees it, it'll back off.
Yeah.
A lot of people say that when they see a firearm, they kind of back off.
Yeah.
They know what it is.
And I think that's what happened with it, because it was almost borderline curious, but also alert and on edge. Mm-hmm. And whenever it seen me come out with a shotgun, I think that's when it decided to leave, because I had heard those whoops and those almost like a 3 distinctive thuds, and then just nothing. So
can you describe the thuds? Was it like thump, thump, thump on the ground?
It was, I wasn't able to hear it real well, even though everything around me was quiet as a mouse. I mean, no crickets, no frogs, nothing. And it was almost like a muffled footstep hitting like soft mud or something like that. Mm-hmm. And with how stealthy those things are, I'm surprised I even heard any of those footsteps.
Yeah.
But
so there would definitely be frogs in that pond at night.
Yes.
And insects. They all went silent.
Yeah. Once I seen, once I had came outside, I just didn't hear anything. And usually whenever I'm outside of a night, or even right now, I'm hearing frogs and crickets and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But I mean, as soon as I let the dogs out, nothing. No crickets, no frogs chirping, nothing.
Okay, so was this creature initially behind that tree that you pointed out?
Yeah,
earlier?
it almost looked like it was leaning its head almost, but also kind of towards the side of it, kind of like that almost.
Okay. And then it came towards you. Correct?
Yeah, it took 2 or 3 steps towards me, right where it starts to get green, right about here, is where it stopped. And I was like right here over by the broken down truck here, and I was able to get really clear vision of what it looked like that dark muddy brown coat with natted hair, the teeth of it, even though I wasn't able to get real good look of it because of how far I was from it, but still able to see the teeth.
That's terrifying, man.
Yeah, and anytime it would take a step and grunt, it looked like it would be breathing with its mouth. So I don't know if it was kind of flashing its teeth at me as a warning to get back, or if it was hurting and was trying to get more air in.
Yeah. So it showed its teeth to you. That's probably a territorial thing.
Yeah.
At what point did it open up its mouth and show its teeth?
Probably whenever it took the steps towards me, because it almost looked like it had its mouth open while it was walking towards me, but I just got that clear vision of seeing its teeth at me whenever it stopped walking towards me. And whenever it would circle around me, it would keep looking back at me periodically, and that's when I was able to get those sights of the teeth, where it looked like a mix of human and chimpanzee teeth. You know how chimpanzee teeth already look similar, but they're different enough to where you can tell the two. But it was a mix of the two. It had the blocky molars and everything, but those chimpanzee-like big canines.
Okay. How big did it open up its mouth?
Probably like that. Just kind of.
That's freaky. And you said the creature was probably about 9 feet tall or so, give or take?
The day after, once it finally started to get bright out, I took my tape measure and walked up to that tree, and it wasn't exactly level with the very top of it. It kind of probably a foot from the tree's total length, but I measured with the tape measure, and it measured out to be like 9 foot 9 inches, give or take a few inches, but it was definitely around 9 foot tall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a pretty big creature. So you think it was a male?
Oh yeah, its body was a mix of like athletic and bodybuilder build. I mean, it was huge, let alone the size. Its body itself was just huge and muscular, and its hands, from what I could see, were gigantic. It had like a triangular type head where it got narrower at the top, but had like a square jaw from the looks of it.
Okay. And its hair was matted. It almost makes me feel like this is a rogue Sasquatch, like maybe it was kicked out of the group.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's mating season, it got in a fight with another one, and it's roaming around looking for a mate or its own family.
And to say, I think it was, I believe it was around its mating time, because just a few days ago, whenever I seen those pairs of eyes, it was either with its mate or it was with another member of its family. And because, yeah, it definitely looked like it was in some sort of scuffle, with the blood look on it, with the matted hair and the muddy look to it. Whether it was fighting for territory, whether it was fighting for a mate, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Just endless possibilities on that.
Did it look wet at all, like it had been in the pond?
No, just those spots on it was the only wetness that it had. So, yeah, it was either just gotten done with a kill and had blood from it on it, or it had gotten into a fight with another, whether it be another predator like mountain lion or something, or another Bigfoot.
Yeah, that's terrifying. And maybe it was out there looking for frogs, possibly. Are there fish in that pond?
Yeah, we got catfish, bass, crappie, you name it, we most likely got it in there. So it's definitely a good spot for it to have fish and everything. We also got frogs, turtles in there. So I don't know exactly what all it eats other than meat and sometimes other plants and everything, but definitely a good spot for it to have food.
Yeah, and you said there's a spillway on that pond, and there's kind of a creek.
There's a dam that we built for that gravel road, and it runs underneath and flows about straight diagonally through there into another smaller river creek that it goes into. So it's probably a mix of food for the pond and then like watering hole for the creek.
Yeah, and there is a Missouri River
pretty
close by. Not the Missouri River, but a river in Missouri.
Yeah,
okay.
And we also got the Truman Lake over probably about 30 minutes away from here. So
I wonder if there's ever been any Bigfoot sightings at Truman Lake.
Oh, I bet you there is.
Yeah.
I personally haven't heard of anything, but I'll bet you there's been sightings of them, whether or not people have seen them and just not told anyone because they don't want to be criticized or ridiculed. Who knows? But
yeah. And what do you think these creatures are?
I think that they are Bigfoot as a general, like how you call dogs of a breed. There's different breeds of dogs, but they're all dogs. And I think that's what Bigfoots are. Whether it be the Yowie, whether it be Yeti, Momo, skunk ape, whatever, they're all Bigfoot as a species. And I think that there's different subspecies or hybridization that occur to either make new species of Bigfoot or already have species of Bigfoot. It's just kind of like how wolves are. You know, there's gray wolves, there's red wolves that are going extinct, and they're bringing back the dire wolves now. And one of the main reasons why the dire wolves went extinct, if I remember right, is because they couldn't breed with any other species of wolves other than the dire wolves. And that was, I think, was one of the main reasons that they went extinct. And I don't think that the Bigfoot is, or Sasquatch is, a endangered species as a whole, but I think there is a lot more than what we know of, whether it be stuff that we haven't encountered or stuff that we've mistaken for another type of animal.
Yeah, that's a good theory right there, and possibly there's some genetical manipulation going on. And like you mentioned with the canines, they're genetically altered, and you get several or many variations of dogs.
Yeah.
And you hear that with Bigfoot a lot. Like some people say it had ears, some people say it looked like a caveman, primate, more human, and it's just some really weird descriptions of these things.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard some really strange encounters. One guy described it as looking like one of the beings off the hills have eyes, like I don't know, almost like it had Down syndrome. So
Yeah.
I don't know, that's a big variation there compared to a gorilla and something that looks like one of the people off the hills have eyes.
I've also heard of people talk about how it's a mix of human and ape. And I don't know, I don't think that the modern human would have interacted with an ape and created a Bigfoot. Now, I think that the earlier versions and species of us humans, like, I can't remember the name of it, but whenever we had Homo sapiens and Neanderthals, they probably had something and then created an offspring similar to that, but I don't think it was exactly what we're seeing today.
I told you this in our last interview, in our initial interview, that if there's one, there's more than likely more.
Yep.
And you said after we had spoken, you saw the eyes again and there was more than one, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the beginning of this week, it was either Monday night or Tuesday, and they all kind of meshed together. But I had been taking my dogs out again, and right around the same area as I initially saw the pair of eyes the first time, I seen two pairs of eyes this time. One was was about the same height as the last time, and it looked like it was standing up. And the other one was more closer to the ground, almost like it was crouching down or laying on all fours. And like I said before, I don't know if that was its mate. I don't know if that was another member of its family doing some reconnaissance or scouting for something else. But I do think at least one of them was here before the night I had encountered the Bigfoot. And because I had, in my initial encounter with it, I felt like I had known this thing all my life, because I had been messed with, it seems, all my life, having rocks or sticks thrown at me.
Tell me about those incidents.
So, damn near all my life, I had been with either outside playing until it got dark out, or running around with my buddies here or near here. And I would always hear my name called out from a distance, but also like right in my ear. And it was like a deep, deep male voice. And I think that was most of the encounters with the Bigfoot or Sasquatch, whatever you want to call it.
So you heard your name in your ear, and I remember in the interview you said you also heard it at a distance.
Yeah, it
So-
was sounded like it was at a distance, but at the same time, it was right in my ear, almost as if it might have been like mind manipulation or whatever you call it, telepathy.
Yeah.
But it really weird. But I had also had sticks and rocks thrown at me, whether I would be walking around at the very edge of my property and just randomly and had a rock or stick thrown at me. Sometimes it would be like a little pebble. Other times it would be a large branch or a large rock. I think that was a warning of getting a little bit too close for the property. And as I got older, probably around early teens, I would have heard whoops, like I had heard before. Just this almost a mix of deep and high-pitched monkey type, ape-like whoops. And that is definitely, I've heard of being warnings of getting too close, or warnings and communications to other Bigfoots. And that's been going around all my life. But I've noticed that after I seen that Bigfoot, there's been a lot more whoops going around, more in the distance, but definitely able to hear.
Yeah. Well, it makes me think that these things are living in the area since you've had experiences your entire life, and this is possibly like a travel corridor for them.
Yeah.
They're probably following the tree line, the waterways, moving from area to area, and it's very interesting that it's springtime. That's when you had this encounter. So maybe they have like juveniles out there.
Yeah.
And from my experience, that seemed to be the case. They had juveniles close to the property. You would think they got them deep in the woods, but they seem to be around people's houses whenever they have these juveniles. And my theory is possibly they're training the juveniles to observe people and just kind of get them acquainted with people's habits, what they do, and just training them. I don't know.
And say, with how much we're growing and building in more rural places and expanding our cities, we definitely have an impact on their and on their life, whether it be good or whether it be bad. It's probably somewhere in the middle, because just like with any creature or with any human, you have ones that hold grudges, you have ones that don't care. And I think that's the same with Sasquatch and Bigfoot. There's some that couldn't care less if humans have seen them, kind of like your experience where it didn't seem like it cared much. Then you also have ones that are more aggressive and more territorial than others. And I think that just depends on their upbringing. And with us growing and advancing more as a civilization, I think that we're bound to have more encounters in the future, whether it be actually being able to see one and sort of kind of get a communication going. That's more knowledge than I have.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that there's going to be more encounters with them. And one of the possibilities that they could be bringing their offspring and whatnot closer to civilization is because if they aren't in rural areas like this, they don't have really too many opportunities to hunt. And with how wasteful we are as human, they could get into our trash and get the scraps that we have as an easy food source and be like, look out for stuff laying around. This is a good place to get food or anything like that. It's just endless opportunities of what they could be doing.
Absolutely, and be prepared to have more experiences and possible encounters here in the near future, especially in this season or throughout this year in the spring, summer, fall, and possibly winter time. I feel like more things are going to happen around the property, so look out for these creatures. Maybe you'll see them again. Look for orbs. You'll see like strange lights moving through the woods at nighttime. The thumps or the thuds, like you mentioned. Trees just falling when there's zero wind out. Wood knocks. Maybe they'll come up to the window and tap.
I've actually, with it being an earth contact house, I've actually heard almost like taps or knocks on the roof. And my room is more into the earth, and so like right above me is where the ceiling is and the roof. And just occasionally, every once in a while, probably 2 or 3 times a year, I'll just hear that. And it's ever so slight to where you think it would be a mouse or some sort of rodent in the roof, but also hard enough to where that might be something else.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure. They'll also slap the side of the house. It'll sound like an owl just crashed into the side of the house about 7-9 feet high.
Speaking of owls, I don't know if it has anything to do with Sasquatches or Bigfoot, but both me and my dad have had weird encounters with owls. And it's on this exact road where we would be driving of a night or a morning and just either have an owl come out of nowhere where there isn't any trees or anything and just hit one, or we'll hit one and think that we had winged it or something, and we get to where we're going and the owl's still in the grill. I couldn't tell you, I don't think it has anything to do with it, but regardless, it's weird.
Yeah, something to keep in mind, that's for sure. I don't know if this has anything to do with it either, but have you ever experienced paranormal activity here or UFO alien activity?
I haven't really experienced paranormal activity, but I have noticed every once in a while, whenever I'm able to see the night sky, just something weird going through the night, going through the sky. And the last time I seen that was probably around December or January, and it looked like a blue orb in Tic Tac contraption, and just it would move through like real, and then stop, and then move again, and then stop, and then I doubt it was. I don't know a whole lot about space or anything. But I don't think a meteor or a satellite can just move throughout the night and then stop and then continue to move and do that.
Yeah, definitely something to keep in mind. You did mention that this thing had this foul smell to it, so possibly it did kill something. What did it smell like? You said like a rotten animal?
It smelled, the best description I could give you is it smelled like death, and it smelled like it had been like a corpse that had been baking in the sun for about a month. Because I had a raccoon that got trapped in one of the trees and wasn't able to get out and just died, and we didn't realize it until about a month later because of the stench. And that is exactly what it smelled like.
Oh wow. So yeah, maybe it did kill something. It had a kill site nearby. We'll have to explore a little bit around the property and possibly see what we can find.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you can think of? Maybe something it did that you forgot to mention? Anything?
Whenever, like I said, whenever I came back out, I had heard, like, I couldn't tell you how many times, but I heard these whoops and whatnot that it sounded like it came from in the direction I had last seen it, and then I heard what looked like, what sounded like slight footsteps, and yeah, and then the 2 pairs of eyes that I seen a couple of nights ago.
Yeah, that's terrifying, man.
Yeah, so this is where I was whenever I had first seen it, and right at that tree, that big branchless kind of light brown tree.
Okay, so where that rotten tree is in the center
Yeah.
with the holes, what tree?
That tree exactly is where
that's the one.
it was next to. And I've heard people say on that Reddit post that it might have been a marker, like a marker of where different spots of territories are of it. And that could have been a marker because it looks like it had been scratched and everything, so.
Okay. So you come out here around 9 p.m. or so?
Yeah, about like somewhere between 9 and 10:30 p.m.
Okay. On a Wednesday.
Yep.
During April.
Yep.
You let the dogs out.
And they were down there by the pond, just doing their thing, messing with frogs or turtles or whatever.
How many dogs do you have?
I got 3. I got
dogs.
a red heeler, blue heeler, and border collie mix, a Shih Tzu, and a Chihuahua.
The healers are really good for picking up on Sasquatch activity.
Yeah, and so I think she caught it before I did, because she was starting to move towards here because I could hear dog tags rattling, getting closer, and once it had kind of starting to get about halfway from about here to over there, I started to get that smell, because I think it got a little bit more closer and the wind closer towards me, so.
Okay, so you shine the light, you see the eyes over there next to that tree, about 9 feet off the ground?
Yep, it is about, yeah, probably where it starts to do that curve almost is where about level of the eyes were.
Okay.
And it took about like 2 or 3 steps towards me, and it stopped right about either the start of where it starts to get green, or maybe like 5-10 feet behind that is where it stopped. And that's where I was able to see all the details of it, the hair, the eyes, the mouth, everything.
Did you notice like a trail going through this little field?
Whenever I was walking through here, trying to get, you know, whether it be blood that had came off of it, fur, footsteps, I had only seen one thing that looked like a footprint, and I don't know if it's gonna be here or not still.
Okay. Do you often see deer in this little field?
Either deer or deer beds, especially right here, but it, yeah.
That was weird. I heard like a thump, or like a knock as you were walking and talking.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, that's weird.
I'm gonna say, I don't know if you can make it out, but this is kind of almost looking like a trail of where it walked.
So it was standing right there?
Yeah, because it's directly in line with that tree.
All right, if you would go up to that tree, kind of put your hand up to about how high you think the creature was, and kind of mimic its movements and kind of walk me through what it did.
Yeah.
You can see like some impressions here.
I'm gonna say, so, you know, it's still a little past where the property line is, but went over and measured it. And I don't know if you can see it, but that big hole that is about a foot or so from the bottom of the top is where I seen the eyes. And it was kind of the tree here, and its body was here and kind of looked like that, looking at me. And then just 1, 2 or 3 big steps into this field, and it just stopped and just started casually walking, but occasionally looking back at me and just grunting, doing that grunt every time it took a step.
Okay. Did you notice anything weird with the stride, with its movements? Did it glide? Did it walk like a human?
It moved its arms and whatnot like you would think a human would, or an ape, but it almost looked like it was in pain. Kind of like that.
Yeah.
Kind of as if whether its leg or just in general it was hurting and just trying to get away or something like that.
Yeah, that's terrifying. So it made its way over to this side of the property.
Yeah, and probably right around in this area is whenever I started to pick up that smell, that deathly rotten smell. And then right over here is where that shed was, and probably another 10 foot into this small ravine or whatever is whenever I started to lose sight of it and just took my dogs, booked it into the house, get my shotgun, come out, and then hear the whoop, whoop, 3 small, or 3 muffled footsteps, and then nothing. No more sounds from the wood knocking or the whoops or anything. And right after that is whenever all the noise started back up, the frogs, the crickets, just all that started to come back to life.
Yeah. So the insects and the frogs came back after the creature left. Ooh, that's interesting. That's terrifying at the same time. Did you ever come back outside, or did you stay inside?
That night I stayed inside. I didn't want to come back that night in a potential of me getting hurt or me hurting it. Just kind of let us both cool down, gather our thoughts, it heal up. And in the morning is whenever I started to look for fur tufts, look for prints, trails, blood trails. You know, I don't know exactly what to look for because I haven't really encountered this before, but I kind of treated it similar as trailing for wounded deer that I would be hunting. And, you know, looking for prints, looking for fur or anything I could find, and then just kind of trailing it back to where I think it would be.
Yeah, so it probably circled around the property and maybe it went around to the back side of the house. Is there more woods back there? Is that where it was heading towards?
Yeah, it looked like it was either headed towards the neighbor's field or going back behind my house, which I got another lake behind there, but there's a lagoon that goes into it. So I don't think anything would be eaten out of there, but wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, you never know.
But yeah, it's definitely way more wooded back there than it is here. There's a lot right next to, if you're looking at the dirt road or the driveway from here, on the left side is kind of like a prairie and very much wooded area over there. So on past the house is where a lot of the woods are for me.
Yeah. I actually took a report, I remember now, of a guy, he was looking for morel mushrooms pretty close to here. I can't remember the name of the town, Spring something.
Blue Springs?
I think so. But he stopped on some gravel road, he started finding morel mushrooms, and he went into the woods and he saw a Sasquatch creature and turned around and left.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I've heard a lot of my buddies have had weird encounters, whether it be UFOs or Bigfoot like stuff over there. It's just definitely a weird place all around here.
Yeah, it fascinates me that these things aren't just in the Mark Twain area, but all over Missouri.
Yeah, and even more broadly across the globe. You know, you got Australia, you got the Himalayas. I've even heard reports in India and the Middle East. It's just definitely weird, and wouldn't be surprised if they are global.
Yeah. Oh, they definitely are. I mean, like you said, the Middle East, I've heard reports from Spain, some from the UK, definitely in China and Russia and Australia, which isn't even connected to the rest of the world. It's isolated.
Which personally makes me think that they were at least around whenever Pangea was, whenever it was all connected. And then once it started, the continental drift started, is whenever they started to do the hybridization or making their new subspecies and whatnot. So
yeah, absolutely. Man, that's freaky. You definitely get a feeling like you're being watched out here. I say that a lot, but more so in this area. Like I said, man, you're gonna experience more. You'll have to write down the incidents, but I'm sure you'll just remember them off the top of your head. But over time, more and more things will happen.
Yep.
Man, those cattle are looking at us. You just see these heads looking at us. They know we're talking.
Oh yeah. They're not as dumb as most people think they are.
Yeah, they're talking about Bigfoot.
Oh, you mean that one guy that's real mean to us?
Yeah. They're like, help us. But it's hard to say exactly where this thing walked.
Yeah,
because it was
nighttime.
Night, yeah. But you can almost see a line going through there. I don't know if that's, well, yeah, that's directly to that tree. Yeah, that's probably where it walked through.
Yeah.
That's freaky. Yeah, you can almost see a line directly to that rotten tree.
Yeah, it almost looks like exact footprints and whatnot.
Like they're in a line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Foot hand?
Yeah. You can definitely tell. Either something stepped there or if there's a hand, you can see deer tracks. There's some deer hair. Or it could have been Bigfoot hair and I just contaminated it. But there's more. That looks like deer hair to me.
Yeah,
The
it's got
underbelly.
that fine look to it.
Yeah. Definitely move through here though.
Mm-hmm. You want to follow that, see where it goes, or?
Yeah, let's do that. Maybe we'll find something. I feel like there's more evidence of Bigfoot than us landing on the moon.
Yeah, for sure.
Because there should be new footage of us going to the moon, like I said before.
Yeah, exactly.
They should be doing tours by now.
Yeah.
Have you found any strange structures in this area?
Not exactly where we're walking, but more down towards the creek. We had, I don't know if it was ours or if it was someone's who was there before, but there's like a sheet metal structure there that is completely worn down, but it almost looks like there's something living in it still.
Really?
There's like little impressions and almost like someone has been sitting there for a long time. So I don't know if that would be one of its places or just a place for it to rest.
Yeah.
Or what?
It could be a lookout area.
Yeah.
They definitely have clan members or juveniles that set up posts around the property and they'll be watching you. Sometimes you can catch them off guard and see them get up and walk off, but
yeah. And say, I think,
sounds unlikely, but they do.
and say, I think whenever I was younger and had those experiences with hearing my name called, rocks and sticks thrown at me, the wood knocking, I think that was one of the older, or not older, but one of the juveniles at the time. And whenever I seen it last week, I'm pretty sure that was one of, if not the same one that had been messing with me all my life, because I can't explain it, but it's just that gut feeling of knowing that there's something out there that has been here my whole life and that I know it.
Yeah, you mentioned that, like you know this thing.
Yeah, like almost like if you see a friend that you've went to school with and then you finally meet up with them for a long, long time, but you can't place them. That's exactly how I felt.
Maybe that's the one that mine spoke to you.
Yeah, it might be.
I've never experienced it, but I've had a lot of reports about it. So even Les Stroud from Survival Man talks about it.
Yeah.
Well, I take that back. I have experienced it, but not in the woods, in somebody's house. Somebody in my ear said, Miguel. Yeah, just like what you described, but it wasn't out in the woods.
Yeah. And say, I don't know if that would be something, but that almost looks like something had brushed up against the bark and chipped the bark off.
Yeah, it does look like claw marks. Good eye, man.
Yeah, that definitely looks fresh, especially right there.
Yeah, it does.
Big thorns, yay.
Yeah, it's wild how they can move through this stuff with ease. I mean, it just clears for them. Did you hear like any branches breaking as it walked through here?
No. I mean, other than those boom, boom, and gone. But I mean, there's been, just like that one guy that you did an interview with a few days ago, one down, and he had a camping trip or hunting trip with his friends, and he was in the tent. Now, I mean, just like he said, you could be in a field of old and dead oak leaves, and they could be coming, and you wouldn't be able to hear them unless they're right there.
Yeah, they're pretty silent when they walk, and there are leaves out here, and you didn't notice like any leaves cracking under its feet or anything?
Nothing.
Crunching?
Just, yeah, nothing, just the footsteps.
They really are the ghosts of the forest, man.
Very much.
Maybe you could find some hair strands on the fence, like black hairs or brown hairs.
I'd say that's definitely probably what I'm going to be doing next.
Yeah. I heard these things would just step right over a fence, like how we have to like push it down and then like step over it. They just take one step and they're over.
Especially with how big the one I had measured. I mean, it was huge. I wouldn't even be surprised if it didn't even break its stride stepping over.
I definitely know they exist, but it still boggles my mind as to how something that big can remain undetected.
Yeah. And, you know, I had always heard of like these 7-foot tall people or stuff like that. And, you know, I was like, oh, that's pretty big. But until you get like a tape measure or something that size and you stand right next to it, you don't know how big it is until you're there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's very, very humbling experience.
Yeah, for sure. And if you get that light out again and you see what you think is deer or cattle, you never know.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was deer at the edge of the wood line one night, and the eyes got up and like rose up into the air. I mean, like an elevator, and they went up to, I mean, I don't want to exaggerate, but it seemed like it was like 12, 13 feet, anywhere from 9 feet up.
Yeah.
But it was definitely higher than like a basketball hoop.
Yeah.
I just can't say because I didn't go out there and measure it.
And say, I definitely didn't want to go out there again at night, but once day broke, I went back out there with a tape measure, went up to get to that tree, and got it to where around where I thought I had seen the eyes level with. And I mean, 9 foot, at least 9 foot. It was huge.
One strange thing that I experience when I interview people like you that are having current activity is we'll walk around the property. We don't hear anything or see anything strange, but whenever I go back and edit the video, I hear these loud, distinct wood knocks, like perfect wood knocks. And it's like, weird, I didn't hear that in person, but when you listen on the audio, it's loud, it's clear.
I think whether it be with how we're talking right now and not paying attention to it, I don't think you pick it up. But once you're there and editing the video, looking for small mistakes or whatever with questions or anything like that, you start to hear things that you didn't notice before.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I mean, I've done that with different videos that I've taken out here, whether it be for just a cool scenery look or coming out here to check on some of the trail cameras I've left for deer season and just looking throughout, because they have audio, luckily, but just weird instances and sounds that I've heard, like the knocking, the whoops, or branch falling down that you wouldn't think would be falling down that loud.
Yeah. So it made its way to that strip of woods.
Yeah.
Okay.
And see how this is way more denser and forested. I mean, we even got like, I don't know exactly, but like pine type trees and whatnot.
Cedars and pines back there. Yeah, so it makes sense why the creature moved through here and headed back in this direction. That's probably where it's living at.
Yeah.
It's freaky, man. Especially since this was the other day.
Yeah, literally last week.
Yeah, I'm glad you contacted me, because a lot of reports that I get aren't very fresh. People are like, this happened in the 70s or the 80s, which, you know, they didn't talk about it for a long time.
Yeah.
They're willing to share it, but it's a pretty rare thing for me to find fresh reports, even though there are. I know people are experiencing these things, but they don't know if they should talk about it. They start treating these things like they're pets. They don't want anyone to know, or they don't want people to think they're crazy, all kinds of reasons.
It's exactly that. I think there's a lot of people who don't want to be deemed as the crazy person of the town, or the person who knows about UFOs and everything, the conspiracy theorist. And it's like, I'm myself. I know what I saw, and I know all the creatures, most of the creatures, I should say, that are around here. There definitely wasn't any description of a deer, a mountain lion. We definitely don't have bears in my area of Missouri. But
yeah. Well, you got a good attitude about it all, not caring what other people think. That's the best way to deal with it, because if you're worried about what others think, it's going to cause you a lot of grief in the end.
Yep.
Right there?
Yeah.
It does kind of look like
See
a trap.
how it's more darker there than anything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does look like something. Always hard to tell on camera.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it looks pretty defined as far as like
the shape.
An impression, yeah. But on camera, it's hard to tell.
I haven't heard them do much action at night, but of a morning especially, they do the bawling and everything.
Uh-huh. What about when the Squatch was out here at nighttime? Were the cattle making any noise? No.
No.
Everything was quiet?
Everything was quiet. Yeah. Didn't have any crickets chirping or frogs croaking, anything like that. Just straight silent.
Yeah.
All right, Nathan, thank you very much for sharing your Bigfoot encounter with all of us openly here on the channel, and it's another one in the books from the state of Missouri. A lot of people believe that these creatures can only be found in remote areas, deep in national forests, and in the Ozarks, but the truth is, these creatures are roaming around everywhere. As someone who has seen these creatures with my own eyes, that logically makes sense that these beings can hide anywhere and not be detected by human beings. Nathan shared a photo with me that someone on Reddit made for him regarding his encounter. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to comment down below. And of course, if you have a Bigfoot or cryptid encounter that you would like to share with me, please contact me at sasquatchtheory@outlook.com. Until the next Bigfoot encounter, be safe out in the forest.